Amara Wold was not invited to the bridal proclamation. She was summoned to remove her winter quilts from the room where she had waited 10 years. The Frosthall waiting room stood at the western side of the palace, narrow and cold, with one window facing the Curse Road. For 10 winters, she had lit a lamp there at dusk because Wolf King Soren Vale had ridden into the Curse War with blood on his mouth and a vow in his hand. Wait for me where the frost cannot bury the door. She had waited. Now Queen Mother Marinth stood beneath that same window, with 2 palace women carrying empty baskets. Lady Wold, Marinth said, gentle enough for witnesses. The king's bridal procession begins at moonrise. The palace cannot preserve private grief, as if it were state history. Amara folded the last quilt slowly. Her fingers did not shake. Private grief did not put me in this room, she said. Marinth smiled. No royal vow record confirms otherwise. Behind the Queen Mother, courtiers lowered their eyes. Some had seen Amara through the years, mending Soren's torn banners, singing winter, counting prayers when the curse winds rose, pressing her palm to the door whenever his name turned black in the war chronicles. None of them spoke. That was what waiting quietly had earned her. Erasure with witnesses. The royal wolf lay at the foot of Soren's empty throne in the adjoining hall, larger than any living wolf, silver-black and scarred from battles older than the crown. Under old wolf law, it did not choose brides, forgive kings, or obey mothers. It guarded royal memory by scent, threshold, and oath trace. If a room held no living claim, it passed by. If a royal vow remained unsettled, it kept the door. That morning, it had not moved. Marinth followed Amara's gaze and softened her voice. Do not mistake the beast's age for judgment. I have learned not to mistake silence for innocence either. The palace doors opened. Soren Vale entered with the winter court behind him. He was taller than the memory Amara had fed through 10 winters, broader through the shoulders, colder around the eyes. His gaze moved over the room, over the quilts, over her face. It did not stop with recognition. Mother, Soren said. Who is she? No public humiliation could have been cleaner. Marinth lowered her lashes. Amara Wold, a loyal household woman who confused a wartime kindness for a promise. I kept her here out of mercy while your memory recovered. Amara looked at Soren, not Marinth. Did you ask what I kept lit? His brows drew faintly. I remember no vow. No, she said. You remember what they returned to you. A stir moved through the court. Marinth's face remained calm. You see, Your Majesty, attachment has turned into accusation. The court needs closure before your new bride enters Frosthall. Soren's jaw tightened. He looked at the baskets, the quilts, the door. Something troubled him. Not memory. The ache before memory. You waited here? He asked. 10 winters. For me? For the man who asked me not to let frost bury the door. His hand flexed at his side. Marinth stepped between them with maternal precision. The curse war damaged many soldiers' minds. Palace stories grew around absence. The king cannot be held captive by a woman's interpretation of loneliness. Amara folded the quilt once more and placed it into the basket herself. Loneliness is empty, she said. I had work. What work? Soren asked, too softly. Marinth answered first. Lighting lamps, keeping old cloth, mourning before she was widowed, harmless habits, until they became a claim. Amara smiled then. It hurt more than tears. Quiet loyalty is harmless until powerful people need the room. Soren looked at her as though the sentence had struck a locked place inside him. Then the bridal horn sounded from the eastern hall. Marinth extended a hand toward the doorway. Lady Wold, please leave before the procession reaches this corridor. Amara lifted the basket. Soren took one step forward. The royal wolf rose. Every voice in Frosthall died. The great wolf did not look at the bridal doors. It did not look at the Queen Mother. It walked past Soren, past Marinth, past the courtiers who had made silence into policy, and entered the waiting room. There, before Amara's emptied chair and cold lamp, it turned. Its scarred body filled the doorway. From the eastern hall came silk, bells, and the soft tread of a bride being carried toward a crown. The royal wolf lowered its head and growled, not at Amara, at the procession. Soren went white. Marinth whispered, "Impossible." Amara held the basket against her ribs and looked at the wolf guarding the room she had been ordered to abandon. The royal wolf had not brought her back. It had not named her bride. It had recorded only one thing the court could not smooth away. The door was not empty. Threshold guard record. After Queen Mother Marinth erased Amara Wold's 10-winter vigil as private grief and prepared Wolf King Soren Vale for another bride, the royal wolf left the throne and guarded the Frost Hall waiting room by threshold and oath trace, showing that a living claim and unsettled royal vow remained attached to the room, not that Amara had been named bride and not yet proving why Soren had forgotten her. The threshold guard record did not prove Queen Mother Marinth had stolen Soren Vale's memory. It proved only that an unsettled royal vow remained attached to the Frost Hall waiting room by threshold and oath trace. Marinth recovered before anyone else. She stepped toward the doorway as if the royal wolf were a difficult relic and not a law older than the crown. "The procession will wait," she told the nearest courtier. "No one approaches the beast." The order sounded practical. That was why people obeyed her. Soren did not move. His eyes remained on the wolf filling the room where Amara had been told to empty herself out. "Why would it guard that door?" he asked. Marinth turned to him with patient sorrow. "Old scent, 10 years of lamps and cloth. Grief can preserve rituals without proving command." Amara held the basket of quilts against her ribs. "Read the lamp before the wedding horn." The bridal music trembled from the eastern hall, soft and offended. Marinth's voice lowered. "Your Majesty, the bride's family is present, to read household records in a corridor because a lonely woman kept a candle lit." "A lamp?" Amara said. Marinth smiled. "A lamp, then. Household custom." "No," Amara said. "A curse road lamp." The royal wolf's ears lifted. Soren heard the change in the beast before he understood the words. "Who ordered it kept?" Marinth answered first. "The western rooms have always been tended in winter." "Not this room," Amara said. "Not every dusk. Not facing the curse road. Ask who changed command into habit." Soren's face tightened at the word command. "Bring the lamp records." A steward hesitated. Marinth did not look at him. "The lamp books are domestic ledgers. They do not govern bridal law." "Bring them," Soren said. No one spoke while they waited. Amara felt every courtly eye testing her plain winter dress, her bare throat, the basket in her arms. A woman who waited quietly was easy to call staff once the man she waited for forgot. The steward returned with a long white ledger marked by smoke at the edges. Frost filmed over the cover when he stepped near the wolf. Marinth's mouth tightened almost too little to see. "Frost forms near the beast's breath. It means nothing." "Then it can mean nothing while we read," Amara said. Soren opened the ledger on the corridor bench. "First winter after the curse war." The steward found the page. Soren read aloud, slowly. "Western curse road lamp. Lit by Amara Wold at dusk." Phrase entered. "Wait for me where the frost cannot bury the door." The court did not gasp. Worse, it became thoughtful. Marinth folded her hands. Wartime phrases were common comfort words. Men said many things before riding to the curse road. Amara looked at Soren. "Did you say many things with your blood on the paper?" He went still. Marinth's eyes sharpened. "Lady Wold." Soren touched the page. "Blood?" "The first entry was copied from the strip you left in the lamp hook," Amara said. "Your blood had frozen over half the ink." Soren looked at the rust-colored mark beside the phrase. His breathing changed. Not memory. Recognition of a wound that belonged to him. "Was this entered as household duty?" he asked. "Or royal command?" The steward swallowed. "Royal waiting command, Your Majesty," Marinth said at once. A clerical excess. The palace was in fear. Servants romanticized survival. Amara's voice stayed low. "Ask why the phrase was written if it was only grief." Soren turned the pages. Second winter. The steward read, lamp lit under same command. Curse wind blackened the king's name in the war chronicle. Flame held. Third. Door frost reached inner hinge. Flame held under same command. Fourth. Lady Wold's hand marked with frostbite. Flame held. Soren looked up then. You were hurt. The door was colder when your name turned black. Marinth moved closer to him. This is exactly the danger. She has made weather into intimacy and duty into possession. The royal wolf growled once, not loudly, but the ledger pages stiffened beneath Soren's hand. A thin line of frost gathered along the margin, revealing the same classification beneath each year. Royal Waiting Command. Royal Waiting Command. Royal Waiting Command. Soren's knuckles whitened. Did I return any message to this room? The steward turned another page, then stopped. Marinth said there were thousands of war dispatches. Soren did not look away from the ledger. Read it. The steward whispered. Fifth winter. Curse Road Ash received. No public message. Private strip delivered to Western Lamphook. Phrase repeated in the king's hand. Still the door. Amara closed her eyes. Only for a breath. Soren's voice broke around restraint. Amara. She opened her eyes at the sound of her name. Do not use my name like memory when you still need paper to hold it. The line hit him cleanly. He accepted it without defense. The royal wolf lowered its body across the threshold, keeping the bridal procession outside while the lamp record shone pale under frost. Lamp vow trace. The Frost Hall lamp records showed Amara Wold kept the Curse Road door lit every winter, under Soren Vale's blood-marked wartime vow phrase, with a fifth winter private strip repeating the command in his hand, proving her vigil followed royal waiting command rather than private grief. The lamp vow trace did not prove Queen Mother Marinth had stolen Soren Vale's memory. It proved only that Amara Wold's 10-winter vigil followed royal waiting command rather than private grief. That distinction made Marinth more dangerous, not less. She did not argue with the lamp ledger. She let the court stare at Soren's blood-marked phrase until the first shock settled into uncertainty. Then she stepped beside the corridor bench and placed one pale hand near the page. Waiting duty became ceremonial after the first winter, she said. Frost Hall preserves many wartime forms. Ceremony comforts a kingdom without creating personal claim. Amara kept the quilt basket in her arms. It had grown heavy enough to bruise. Read winter before mercy. Soren looked at her. She did not give him softness for obeying too late. Ask why mercy needed my name every year. The royal wolf remained across the threshold, breathing low white mist over the floorboards. The bridal procession waited beyond it in offended silence, silk rustling where law had stopped beauty from passing. Soren turned to the steward. Bring the winter-counting ledgers. Marinth's smile thinned. Your Majesty, those books record seasonal rites, food stores, storm deaths, and mourning prayers. They are not vow archives. Were they used to classify Amara Wold's presence in this room? The steward lowered his eyes. Yes, Your Majesty. Then bring them. The ledgers arrived in 3 iron-clasped volumes, their leather stiff with cold. One courtier whispered that the bride's father had begun pacing in the eastern hall. Marinth heard it and turned that pressure into a blade. Every moment we delay, the kingdom sees a waiting room outweigh a crown. Amara answered. A crown that cannot survive a ledger was already too thin. Soren's gaze cut toward her, startled by the clean pain of it. Marinth touched his sleeve. She speaks well because she has had 10 years to prepare grievance. Amara looked at the Queen Mother. No, I had 10 years to keep a door from freezing shut. Soren opened the first winter ledger. Classification? The steward read, Amara Wold, Western Vigil, Royal Waiting Duty, Curse, Road Oath Protection applied. Marinth said softly, Protection applied to the room, not to her. Read the line beneath, Amara said. The steward swallowed. Witness body required. Lamp cannot hold oath without living keeper. The royal wolf's eyes opened. Soren's hand tightened on the page. Was she paid as household staff? No, Your Majesty. Marinth answered before the silence could form. Out of mercy, we did not reduce her to wages while she grieved. Amara's voice remained even. Ask whether mercy was entered. Soren turned the page. Was mercy entered? The steward searched. No. Oath duty entered. Winter rations assigned under royal command. Second winter, Soren said. Amara Wold. Royal waiting duty. Curse Road oath protection renewed. Frostbite salve issued after Western Hinge breach. Soren looked up. You were treated for frostbite and sent back? I asked to return. Marinth seized on it. You hear her. She chose the ritual. No one compelled her. Amara looked at Soren. Ask whether morning rites face the curse road by command. Soren read the margin himself. Keeper requested return before dusk. Reason. King's name blackened in war chronicle. Door must remain witnessed. His throat moved once. Amara saw memory try to rise and fail. That failure still hurt. Third winter, he said. The steward read. Royal waiting duty renewed. Curse wind reached inner sill. Amara Wold remained through Belfrost. Witness report sent to Northern Front. Soren's eyes sharpened. I received winter counting reports. Marinth's face remained composed. War reports passed through many hands. You were under curse strain. Did I receive them? He asked again. The steward hesitated. Marked dispatch to the King's recovery camp. Not proof of memory theft. Not yet. Only proof that her waiting had not been hidden from the war entirely. Marinth folded her hands. Dispatch does not prove receipt. The curse road swallowed half the kingdom's paper. Amara nodded once. Correct. It proves only that I was not kept here as pity. Soren looked at her then, and the ache before memory deepened into something close to fear. 4th through 10th, he ordered. The steward read faster, but every year landed. Royal waiting duty renewed. Oath protection active. Lamphill. Door witnessed. Amara Wold named keeper. No mercy classification entered. By the 10th entry, the court had stopped pretending not to listen. Marinth's voice cooled. Service records do not create marriage claim. Amara turned toward her. I did not ask for marriage from a ledger. I asked not to be erased by mercy I never received. Soren closed the winter ledger slowly. Was her name attached to the room by service or by vow? He asked. The royal wolf stood. Frost gathered across the doorway and along the opened ledger margins, revealing the same classification already inked beneath the last 10 winters. Royal waiting duty under Curse Road oath protection. Amara lowered the basket to the floor at last. Winter counting record. The Frost Hall winter ledgers recorded Amara Wold's 10-year vigil as royal waiting duty under Curse Road oath protection, with a living keeper required and no mercy classification entered, contradicting Queen Mother Marinth's claim that the palace kept her only out of mercy. The winter counting record did not prove Queen Mother Marinth had stolen Soren Vale's memory. It proved only that Amara Wold's 10-year vigil was royal waiting duty under Curse Road oath protection, not mercy. Marinth did not let silence turn against her. She lifted her chin toward the eastern hall, where the bridal procession waited behind the royal wolf's barred threshold. Then the matter is clear, she said. Old wartime duty expired. Household ledgers were updated for bridal transition. Amara's fingers loosened from the basket handle, but she did not step away from it. Read mercy by date. Soren Vale turned from the winter ledgers. His face had the pale restraint of a man learning that every answer created a deeper wound. What household ledgers? He asked. Marinth answered before any steward could. Current palace status books. Mercy, kept staff, was a harmless administrative category. Amara looked at Soren. Ask why pity arrived only when the bride did. A visible discomfort moved through the court. The bride's father stood beyond the corridor arch, broad in white fur, insulted by delay. Behind him, bridal attendants held silver candles that had begun to gutter in the royal wolf's cold breath. Marinth saw every witness. She used them. Your Majesty, she said, soft and wounded. Must your future queen stand behind a beast while we examine clerical phrasing for a woman already treated kindly? Soren's hand tightened over the winter ledger. Bring the current household status books. Marinth did not flinch. Reclassification does not erase prior duty. It simply gives the palace a present category after an outdated role ends. Amara's voice stayed quiet. Ask who decided it ended. The royal wolf's scarred head lowered closer to the floor, blocking the bridal candles from crossing the threshold. The steward returned with a slimmer ledger bound in blue-gray leather. It looked newer than the winter books, cleaner, less burdened by weather. Soren opened it. Find Amara Wold. The steward found the entry too quickly. Soren noticed. Read the date. 3 days before the bridal proclamation, Your Majesty. The court changed shape around that sentence. Marinth folded her hands. The palace needed a current status before moving Lady Wold from a room required for the new queen's arrival. Amara looked at the room where her cold lamp stood behind the wolf. Ask who needed me smaller before she entered. Soren did not look at Marinth yet. Read the classification. The steward's throat worked. Amara Wold. Mercy, kept household dependent. Western room occupancy permitted by Queen. Mother's charity. Removal authorized before bridal procession. Something in Soren's expression went still. Was royal waiting duty removed? He asked. Yes, Your Majesty. By whose order? The steward looked toward Marinth. Marinth's voice remained gentle. By household authority. The crown cannot keep a war room open forever because a woman's grief has attached itself to the walls. Amara answered. A label can erase ink only if everyone agrees not to look back. Soren turned one page, then another. Was she notified? The steward read lower. No personal notice entered. Removal to occur at proclamation preparation. Amara smiled faintly. Summoned to carry quilts. Not told a law had been changed around me. The bride's father spoke at last. Wolf King, my daughter waits while this woman contests household order. Marinth bowed her head to him. Lord Vere, no insult is intended. The court only clarifies a charitable misunderstanding. Amara looked at him. I am not contesting your daughter. I am contesting the lie required to make room for her. Soren's gaze moved to her then. Sharp with pain, he still had not earned the right to show. Did I sign the bridal proclamation before reading this change? He asked. Marinth said. The proclamation was lawful. That was not my question. The steward looked at the royal seal list. Yes, Your Majesty. The proclamation was signed the morning after the reclassification. Soren's breath left him slowly. Not apology. Impact. Marinth stepped closer. You signed a crown necessity while still recovering. No one intended dishonor. Clerks simplified an outdated wartime role so the palace could move forward. Amara held his gaze. Ask whether mercy was truth, or a label added when the room was needed. Soren looked down at the ledger. The royal wolf exhaled. Frost traveled not across blank stone, but along the new blue-gray page, settling over 3 entries until they shone brighter than the ink around them. Reclassification entered. Bridal proclamation scheduled. Royal waiting duty removed. No notice to living keeper. Soren looked at Marinth. Mother, he said, why was her duty renamed before I read the winter ledgers? Marinth's face did not change. Because kings cannot spend their reigns inside rooms where women wait for wars to end. Amara placed the quilt basket on the corridor bench between the lamp ledger and the household book. No, she said, but kings should know who was asked to keep the door open while they survived. The royal wolf remained across the threshold, its cold breath pushing through the corridor until the waiting bride's candles guttered out one by one. Mercy classification discrepancy. The palace household ledgers classified Amara Wold as mercy-kept staff 3 days before the bridal proclamation, removed her royal waiting duty, and entered no notice to the living keeper, contradicting Queen Mother Marinth's claim that Mercy had always explained her presence in Frosthall. The Mercy classification discrepancy did not prove Queen Mother Marinth had stolen Soren Vale's memory. It proved only that Amara Wold had been reclassified as mercy-kept staff 3 days before the bridal proclamation, with her royal waiting duty removed and no notice entered to the living keeper. The waiting bride's candles had gone out one by one, but Marinth did not look toward them. She looked at the ledgers. That made Amara colder than the wolf's breath. "Administrative timing has been clarified," Marinth said. "It does not touch the king's recovery." Soren Vale stood with the household book open beneath his hand. "Then we will read the recovery file." A thin unease moved through the court. Marinth's voice softened. "War dispatches were often incomplete. Your Majesty knows this better than anyone. The Curse Road devoured paper, riders, and men." Amara lifted her eyes from the blue-gray ledger. "Read the route before the memory." Soren turned to her. She did not step closer. "Ask where my name stopped." The words did not accuse his mother. Not yet. They made the corridor narrower. Soren faced the steward. "Were winter counting reports for Amara Wold's vigil dispatched to my recovery camp?" The steward opened the third winter ledger again. "Marked dispatched, Your Majesty." "Fourth winter?" "Marked dispatched." "Fifth?" "Marked dispatched with lamp strip notation." Marinth placed one hand over her heart. Maternal, weary, believable. "Marked dispatched is not marked received. Recovery camp clerks lost many documents. I will not allow a woman's humiliation to become an accusation against dead clerks." Amara's mouth tightened. "Ask why every report reached the camp ledger but not your file." Soren's head turned slowly. "There is a camp ledger?" The steward paled. "A receipt registry, Your Majesty. Separate from the memory. Restoration file. Bring both." Marinth did not move, but the air around her did. "Memory. Restoration files contain medical records, battle wounds, curse fever, throne readiness. Household reports were not relevant to healing a king." The royal wolf's tail struck the floor once. "Not judgment." Threshold response. The steward returned with a black recovery ledger and a narrow silver file box sealed with the Queen Mother's crest. Soren stared at the crest. "Who controlled my memory? Restoration file?" he asked. Marinth answered calmly. "I did. As your mother and regent during recovery. Read the receipt registry first." The steward opened the black ledger. "Third winter report received from Frosthall, Western Vigil. Amara Wold named living keeper. Lamp held. Soren's hand curled. Fourth, received. Frostbite salve report. Amara Wold returned before dusk under oath duty. Fifth, received. Private strip notation attached. Phrase repeated. Still the door." The court had stopped breathing loudly. Marinth said, "Received at camp does not mean medically entered. The king was half-fevered. We protected him from unstable wartime material." Amara looked at Soren then. "Ask who decided awaiting command was not recovery evidence." He did not look away from her. "Was Amara Wold's name entered into my memory? Restoration file." The steward unlocked the silver box with shaking fingers. Pages lay inside in perfect order. Battle wound at left ribs. Curse fever. Royal speech exercises. Throne readiness assessment. No lamp ledger. No winter counting report. No Amara Wold. Soren's face drained of everything but restraint. Marinth stepped closer. "A waiting room report cannot restore a king's memory. Love stories written by cold women do not heal curse damage." Amara absorbed the cruelty without bending. "I was not asking your file to love me," she said. "I was asking it not to bury the road back." Soren closed his eyes once, and when he opened them, the pain there was sharper because it still had no right to ask anything of her. "Did the file include the vow phrase?" The steward whispered. "No, Your Majesty." "The fifth winter strip?" "No." "Her name?" "No." Soren's voice lowered. "But all were received at my camp?" "Yes." Marinth's expression held. "Omission is not theft. It is triage." Amara nodded once. "Correct. It is omission. That is all this proves." The line cut deeper because it refused drama. Soren looked at the recovery file as if it had become a second locked door. Did I forget her? He asked. Or was I never given the records meant to help me remember? No one answered. The royal wolf rose from the threshold and walked to the silver file box. It did not touch Soren. It did not touch Amara. It lowered its scarred muzzle over the empty place where her name should have been. Frost gathered along the file tabs and revealed only what was missing. No lamp-vow entry. No winter counting reports. No living keeper name. Soren looked at his mother. Marinth looked back with perfect sadness. Some memories kill kings before enemies do, she said. Amara picked up her quilt basket again. Then perhaps kingdoms should stop surviving by burying women alive. Dispatch route discrepancy. Winter counting reports for Amara Wold's vigil were marked received at Soren Vale's recovery camp, but never entered into the memory restoration file controlled by Queen Mother Marinth, showing where Amara's name stopped without yet proving why it was omitted. The dispatch route discrepancy did not prove Queen Mother Marinth had stolen Soren Vale's memory. It proved only that winter counting reports for Amara Wold's vigil reached his recovery camp and stopped before the memory restoration file controlled by his mother. That was still a door, not the hand that closed it. Marinth let the silence harden, then placed her sadness carefully in the middle of it. Your Majesty, omission from a medical file is not injury. It is protection. The curse war left you with memories that tore open fever whenever spoken. Soren stood over the silver file box as if it might bite him. What treatment was used for memory fever? The corridor changed. Amara felt it before anyone spoke. The royal wolf's breath thickened against the floor, not growling now, only listening. Marinth's gaze softened towards Soren. Stabilizing draughts, standard after curse road damage. Amara's fingers tightened around the basket handle. Read the draft before the mercy. Soren looked at her. Ask what the medicine was asked to silence. Marinth's tone cooled by one careful degree. Lady Wold is not a physician. No, Amara said. I am the woman your file decided was not relevant to healing him. Soren did not defend his mother. He did not defend Amara either. He did something colder and more useful. Bring the draft schedule. A court healer near the rear flinched. Soren saw it. Now, the healer came forward with a thin vellum roll tied in white thread. Queen Mother Marinth's seal hung from the knot, pressed over the crest of the recovery camp. Soren stared at it. Who authorized the schedule? Marinth answered calmly. I authorized all recovery measures during your fever. The kingdom needed its king alive before it needed his nightmares catalogued. Amara spoke softly. Ask whether a vow is a nightmare when it belongs to a woman with a lamp. Soren broke the seal. The healer read because Soren's hands had gone still. Post. Curse memory stabilization. Winter dimming draft. Administered on recurrence of oath. Fragment. Threshold distress. Or name-linked fever. The words moved through the corridor like frost under a door. Soren lifted his eyes. Name-linked fever. The healer swallowed. When a name triggers pain, Your Majesty, Marinth stepped in gently. Names of dead comrades, fallen captains, battlefields. You were nearly destroyed by grief. Read the recorded triggers, Soren said. The healer looked at Marinth. Soren's voice lowered. Read them. First entry, the healer whispered. Patient woke asking if the western door was still lit. Draft administered. Amara did not move. Soren did. Only one step, but it was toward her before guilt stopped him. Was the lamp report already received? He asked. The healer checked the camp registry. Yes, Your Majesty. Received 2 days prior. Not entered into the memory file. Second, Soren said. Patient spoke phrase. Frost cannot bury the door. Draft administered. The royal wolf's claws scraped once against the stone. Marinth said, the phrase came with fever. We quieted it to save your mind. Amara's voice remained steady. Ask whether quieting a phrase is the same as restoring memory. Soren looked back to the roll. Third. The healer's lips trembled. Patient repeated, name unclear. Possible Amara. Draft administered. No external confirmation entered. The court finally made a sound. Not outrage. Recognition beginning to fear itself. Marinth lifted her chin. A half-heard name inside fever is not evidence. I would not anchor your recovery to a woman's possible claim. Amara answered. You did not have to anchor him to me. You only had to stop cutting the rope. Soren closed his eyes once. When he opened them, they were wet with pain he still did not offer her. How many times? He asked. The healer turned the vellum with shaking hands. 9 draughts in the 5th winter, 6 in the 6th, 3 in the 7th, then none after the oath. Fragments ceased. Seized, Soren repeated. Marinth's voice was almost tender. You improved. Amara looked at the white-threaded roll. No. He stopped reaching the door. The royal wolf rose and walked to Soren's side. It did not comfort him. It pressed its scarred muzzle over the draft schedule, and frost gathered only in the margins already marked by the healer's hand. Oath fragment. Threshold distress. Name-linked fever. Draught administered. Soren touched the word name as if it were a wound. Did these drafts restore memory, he asked, or prevent the memory from breaking through? No one answered. Marinth did. They kept you alive. Amara lowered the basket to the floor. Then perhaps the first truth you owe your kingdom is what kind of life was built from forgetting. Memory draft protocol record. Soren Vale's recovery schedule recorded winter-dimming drafts administered whenever oath fragments, threshold distress, and possible Amara-linked fever surfaced, while received lamp reports remained outside the memory restoration file, showing that his Frosthole vow memories were medically suppressed during recovery, not yet proving that Queen Mother Marinth intended to erase Amara Wold. The memory draft protocol record did not prove Queen Mother Marinth had intended to erase Amara Wold. It proved only that Soren Vale's Frosthole vow memories were medically suppressed during recovery, while received lamp reports remained outside his memory restoration file. Marinth used that narrowness like a shield. Then recovery was difficult, not criminal, she said. The drafts quieted fever. The kingdom cannot turn necessary medicine into romantic accusation because one woman's name surfaced in pain. Amara looked at the white-threaded schedule lying open beside the winter ledgers. One woman's name, she said. 10 winters of records. Soren's face tightened. Marinth stepped closer to him, gentle and commanding at once. You are king before you are memory. The bridal house waits. Your people need a future, not a corridor trial over what fever almost destroyed. Amara lifted the quilt basket. Soren noticed immediately. Where are you going? The question came too quickly. Not command. Fear. She did not let it move her. Out of the room your court needed me small enough to remove. The royal wolf raised its head. Soren took one step toward her. Amara, wait. She stopped because the word wait had belonged to another man, one who had written in blood before the curse road and not yet returned whole enough to stand behind it. Do not ask that of me again until the record is clean. His breath caught. Marinth's mouth softened with almost maternal grief. Lady Wold, leaving now will make you appear unstable. Stay, and the court can settle your status with dignity. Amara looked at the Queen Mother. You already settled my status. Mercy. Kept staff. No notice entered. A low murmur moved through the witnesses. Soren turned to the steward. What does oath law require if the living keeper withdraws? Marinth's eyes sharpened. Your Majesty, that is unnecessary. Read it. The steward opened the winter law margin with shaking hands. If a royal waiting duty is disputed, the living keeper may withdraw witness until name, duty, and oath records are restored. During withdrawal, no bridal passage, throne transfer, or room reassignment may cross the guarded threshold. The waiting bride's father swore under his breath. Marinth said, an archaic clause. Amara answered, still ink? Soren looked at her then, across the ledgers, the extinguished candles, the wolf that guarded the room where he had not remembered her. "What do you require restored?" "Not chosen," she said. "Restored." He flinched. "Good. Name," she continued. "Royal waiting duty, living keeper status. Every lamp entry removed from your file restored to the file where it should have been read. Every winter report returned under my name. The mercy label struck through, not hidden." Marinth's voice cooled. "You would hold the king's marriage hostage to clerical correction?" Amara's eyes did not leave Soren. "No. I am refusing to be used as a corridor inconvenience while you decide whether my life counts." Soren swallowed. "Your life counts. Then prove it before asking me to stand where they erased it." The words reached him more deeply than comfort could have. He looked to the silver file box, then to his mother. "Enter her withdrawal." Marinth went still. The court did too. "Your Majesty," she said, "if you enter withdrawal, the bridal passage stops by law." Soren's jaw hardened. "Then the passage stops by law." It cost him. Amara saw the cost in the bride's father's fury, in the court's sudden fear, in Marinth's sharpened silence. She did not mistake cost for repair. "Read the cause," she said. Soren nodded to the steward. The steward wrote, voice trembling as he spoke each line aloud. "Living keeper Amara Wold withdraws witness from Frost Hall waiting room until name, royal waiting duty, lamp, vow trace, winter, counting reports, and household classification are restored in proper record." Marinth's hands folded tighter. "This will humiliate the bridal house." Amara turned at last toward the eastern corridor. "Tell them the truth. Their procession was asked to walk through a room that was never legally empty. The bride herself stood behind her father now, pale beneath a white veil. She did not speak. Amara did not hate her for that. Silence was a palace illness. Some women survived it before they learned its price. Soren saw Amara looking and seemed to understand too late that choosing truth did not only mean defying his mother. It meant refusing to let another woman be carried forward by a lie. He faced the bridal house. "No passage proceeds tonight." Marinth whispered, "Soren." He did not look at her. "Not until the records are restored." Amara lifted the basket again. The royal wolf stepped away from the waiting room door. For one breath, the court thought it had yielded. Then the beast followed Amara, not touching her, not claiming her, walking behind the living keeper whose withdrawal had stopped the threshold. Soren watched them go down the western corridor, and the ache in his face looked almost like memory trying to crawl through snow. Amara did not turn back. Living keeper withdrawal record. After the memory draft protocol showed Soren Vale's Frost Hall vow memories were medically suppressed, Amara Wold withdrew as living keeper until her name, royal waiting duty, lamp vow trace, winter counting reports, and household classification were restored, halting the bridal passage without naming her bride or proving Queen Mother Marinth's intent. Amara Wold's withdrawal did not make Soren Vale remember her. It made him act before memory could become another excuse. The western corridor stayed barred by law. The bridal house waited in offended silence. The court looked toward Soren as if a king could solve 10 winters by commanding them to become less cold. He could not, so he turned to the ledgers. "Bring the memory, restoration file, the household status book, the lamp ledger, and all winter, counting reports to the western steps," he said. Marinth's face softened with alarm disguised as care. "You would carry royal records outside the hall because Lady Wold refuses to stand where she was wronged." "Yes. A king does not chase a woman into snow." Soren looked at her. "A king may follow the record he failed to read." The words cost him. Not enough, but they made the courtiers look away first. Amara stood beyond the Frost Hall arch, where the western steps fell toward the curse road. Snow gathered in her hair and along the basket handle. The royal wolf waited behind her, massive and silent, not touching her shadow, not claiming her grief. When Soren came out with the ledgers, she did not bow. Good, he thought, with pain he did not speak. She had bowed enough to rooms that renamed her. Marinth followed, wrapped in white fur, every inch the grieving mother forced into public correction. "Lady Wold," she said, "His Majesty has agreed to correct any clerical discomfort. Let that be enough to let the bridal passage continue." Amara looked at the books in Soren's hands. "Do not call erasure discomfort." Soren set the ledgers on a stone bench rimmed with ice. "Read what must be restored." She did not move closer. "You read it." He deserved that. He opened the household status book first. Amara Wold, Mercy, kept household dependent. The title tasted like ash. He took the silver correction blade from the steward and drew one line through the entry. Marinth stepped forward. "Your Majesty, struck entries imply fault." Soren did not look up. "Then let the implication begin where the false label did." He wrote beneath it, "Royal correction, Mercy. Kept classification entered after 10 years of royal waiting duty and without notice to living keeper." Classification void. A courtier inhaled sharply. Amara's expression did not change, but her fingers loosened slightly around the basket. "Next," she said. Soren opened the lamp ledger. "Western Curse, Road Lamp, lit by Amara Wold at dusk under blood-marked vow phrase." He wrote the missing cross-reference into the memory restoration file. "Lamp vow trace restored to recovery record." Marinth's voice remained composed. "A lamp record does not heal curse damage." "No," Soren said, "but hiding it did not heal me either." The royal wolf's ears lifted. Soren opened the winter counting reports one by one. His hand grew less steady with every year he read. "Royal waiting duty renewed. Curse road oath, protection active. Living keeper required. Amara Wold named keeper. Report received at recovery camp." He entered each line into the silver file. "Third winter restored. Fourth winter restored. Fifth winter restored with private strip notation. Sixth through 10th winter restored under living keeper name." Marinth watched the ink like it was blood spreading where she had expected snow. "You are building recovery from accusation," Amara answered before Soren could. "No, he is building accusation from what recovery omitted." The line struck the chord harder because it was exact. Soren looked at her across the stone bench. "What else?" She held his gaze only long enough to make refusal visible. "You tell them." He turned to the witnesses. "Royal entry. I signed the bridal proclamation before reading the records attached to the room I ordered cleared. I allowed household classification to stand over royal waiting duty. I accepted memory without asking what had been kept from it." Marinth's mouth tightened. "You were ill. I was king. You were my son. I was also hers to wait for because I asked it of her." The sentence came too close to tenderness. Amara stepped back once. Soren saw it and stopped there. He did not ask for her heart. He did not reach for her hand. He did not say he remembered enough to deserve her. He wrote instead, "Living keeper Amara Wold remains withdrawn until she chooses otherwise. No bridal passage shall cross Frosthall waiting room while record restoration remains incomplete." The bride, still waiting beneath her extinguished veil, finally spoke from the corridor. "Was my procession built over this?" Marinth turned sharply. "Lady Azera." Soren answered first. "Yes." The word broke something clean. Amara looked toward the bride then, and for the first time the other woman looked back, not as rival, but as another person standing inside a room built by someone else's silence. The royal wolf walked to the corrected records and lowered its muzzle over the silver file. Frost gathered only along the restored entries, sealing them clear. Not blessing. Not forgiveness. Record restoration order. Soren Vale publicly struck Amara Wold's mercy-kept classification, restored her lamp vow trace and winter counting reports to his memory restoration file, entered his own failure to read the records before signing the bridal proclamation, and kept her living keeper withdrawal active until she chose otherwise. The record restoration order did not give Amara Wold back 10 winters. It gave the court no clean way to pretend those winters had never existed. That difference mattered. Amara stood on the western steps with snow in her hair. while Soren Vale's corrected records lay open on the ice-rimmed bench. The royal wolf kept its body between her and Frosthall, not as shield, not as claim, but as old law waiting for the living keeper's next word. Queen Mother Marinth understood that before most of them did. His Majesty has restored the clerical record, she said. Lady Wold may now return to the room, accept honorable settlement, and release the threshold for the bridal procession. Amara looked at the Queen Mother. You still speak as if the room is the prize. Marinth's smile held. It is a room. No, Amara said. It is the place where you learned silence could be renamed. Soren's gaze lowered, not from command, from guilt that had finally stopped looking noble. Lady Ysera, the waiting bride, stepped out from behind her father's furred shoulder. Her veil was lifted now, her face pale and younger than Amara expected. If the threshold remains barred, she asked, am I being refused by law or by you? Amara turned to her. By neither. You are being delayed by a record no one read before placing you in front of it. Ysera looked towards Soren. Did you know? No, Soren said. The answer was true and insufficient. Amara felt it land between them. Marinth moved quickly. Lady Ysera, no bride should be made to beg standing from a woman who refuses closure. Amara's eyes sharpened. Do not put your words in her mouth because mine no longer fit there. A hush passed through the court. Soren looked at the steward. What does oath law require after restoration? The steward opened the winter law margin. When name, duty, and record are restored, the living keeper may choose one of 3 entries, continue witness, release witness, or demand public vow reading before any threshold transfer. Marinth's hand closed around her white fur. An obsolete choice. Amara answered, still ink. Soren looked at her, and the look hurt because it carried fragments now. Not enough to be memory, enough to be grief finding its own bones. What do you choose? He asked. She almost laughed at how quietly a decade could be placed back into a woman's hands. I choose public vow reading. The court erupted in controlled whispers. Marinth stepped forward. That would place private wartime language before the kingdom. It would humiliate the crown. Amara held her gaze. The crown survived my erasure. It can survive my record. Soren's voice came low. Read it. Marinth turned on him. You would let a corridor claim command the throne. No, he said. I let the throne command a woman to wait and then failed to ask what that cost. The words struck the winter air. They did not repair him, but they did not hide. The steward placed the blood-marked strip, the 5th winter private strip, and the winter counting ledger on the bench. The royal wolf lowered its head until its breath rimmed the pages in frost. Soren read first from the old strip. Wait for me where the frost cannot bury the door. His voice roughened before the end. Amara did not look away. He read the 5th winter strip next. Still the door. A sound moved through him then, almost broken, almost memory. Marinth whispered, Enough. Amara said, No, the vow was not made to you. Soren looked at the winter ledger. Amara Wold, living keeper, royal waiting duty, curse road oath protection active. He stopped. Amara knew why. The next line had never been read aloud. Continue, she said. He did. If the king returns without memory, living keeper may hold witness until memory record is restored or release without penalty. The whole court changed around that sentence. Release without penalty. Not abandoned. Not disloyal. Not bitter. Free. Marinth went still. Soren looked at Amara as if the law had become the one mercy no one had told him she possessed. You could have released, he said. Yes. Why didn't you? Amara looked at the frost-hole door, the lamp, the quilts, the wolf, the man who had needed paper to remember her name. Because I believed the man who wrote in blood would come back before the kingdom finished teaching him to forget. The answer wounded him cleanly. He accepted it. No apology. Not yet. Only silence that did not defend itself. Amara turned to the steward. Enter my choice. Public vow reading completed. Living keeper retains right to continue, release, or refuse return. No bridal passage crosses Frosthall until the keeper's final choice is entered by her own hand. Marinth's voice thinned. You would make yourself gate over the king's future. Amara picked up the silver quill. No, she said. I am done being a door. The royal wolf exhaled over the page, and the frost sealed only the line she had spoken into law. Living keeper choice record. After Soren Vale restored Amara Wold's erased records, the winter law margin showed the living keeper could demand a public vow reading and choose whether to continue or release witness without penalty, allowing Amara to claim her own decision before any bridal passage or royal future proceeded. The living keeper choice record did not make Amara Wold a bride. It made her the only person in Frosthall who could decide whether the threshold would open. Queen Mother Marinth understood first. Then let Lady Wold choose release, she said. She has had her public reading. We can spare her further exposure. Amara held the silver quill. Do not offer privacy after building my humiliation in public. Soren Vale looked from her to his mother. What remains unread? Nothing necessary, Marinth said. The royal wolf growled. Not at the bride. Not at Amara. At the silver memory file. Soren reached for it. Marinth stepped forward. That file has already been corrected. Amara's voice stayed quiet. Read the draft authority. Soren stilled. The authorization. The hand that told the medicine when to stop. Marinth's eyes settled on Amara. You speak as if a mother keeping her son alive is a crime. No, Amara said. I speak as the woman your mercy buried twice. Soren opened the last compartment of the silver box. Inside lay a narrow black card sealed beneath dried white wax. Read, Soren ordered. The healer obeyed. Recovery instruction under regent authority. Continue winter dimming draft upon recurrence of threshold distress. Vow phrase, or Amara, linked name fever. Marinth lifted her chin. As already stated. Stabilization. The healer's voice shook. Second line. Do not introduce external vow reports unless thrown. Readiness declines. Continue, Soren said. Third line. When name-linked fever ceases for one full winter, classify Western Vigil as mercy dependence, and prepare Frosthall for dynastic transition. The royal wolf rose. Its breath swept through the open waiting room. Frost spread along the walls in lines, dates, and names. First winter, Amara Wold lit curse, rode lamp under royal waiting command. Second winter, living keeper remained through Hingefrost. Third winter, report dispatched. Fourth winter, frostbite treated. Witness returned. Fifth winter, private strip received. Still the door. Sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. The court watched 10 years right themselves, until the walls of Frosthall no longer looked empty. They looked occupied by witness. Lady Isera removed her bridal veil. Her father hissed, "Daughter." She did not put it back on. I will not cross a threshold built on another woman's buried name. Marinth turned sharply. Child, do not mistake spectacle for law. Isera looked at Amara. Is it law? Amara answered. Now it is. Soren closed the silver file. Queen Mother Marinth Vale, he said. You held received vow reports from my memory file, authorized drafts when Amara, linked fever surfaced, and ordered her vigil reclassified when the name stopped returning. You will surrender all regent authority over memory, bridal, and household records, and stand before the Winter Council. Marinth's face hardened. I saved you from a woman who would have kept you weak. Soren looked at Amara. No, she kept the door while I was weak. You made me call that weakness forgotten. The royal wolf stepped between mother and son before he could say more than the record allowed. Amara saw the restraint. It mattered. It did not erase. Soren turned to the court. Royal entry. I accepted a recovered life without asking who had been removed from it. I signed a bridal proclamation before reading the vow records. I allowed my mother's mercy label to stand over Amara Wold's duty. This fault is mine to repair whether or not she ever returns to me. He placed the bridal proclamation on the frost-covered bench and cut his own seal through the center. Not the bride's dignity. His seal. The bridal passage is void, he said. Lady Isera leaves Frosthall unshamed, with her house's alliance renegotiated outside this room. Isera bowed once to Amara. Amara accepted with a nod. Then Soren picked up the Frosthall key and set it on the bench between them. I will not give this to you as a claim, he said. It was never mine to return as reward. Frosthall records your witness. You choose whether it remains a waiting room, a royal archive, or nothing at all. Amara looked at the key. 10 winters lived inside its iron. So did every evening she had thought love meant staying where she had been left. She picked it up. I will not live here as the woman who waited. Soren's face tightened, but he did not ask her not to leave. Good. I will open it as the Frosthall Vow Archive, she said. No woman's duty will be renamed mercy, because silence made it convenient. The royal wolf bowed its scarred head to the key. Not to crown her, to record her choice. Soren's voice was rough. And me? Amara looked at the man who had forgotten her, and the king who had finally stopped hiding behind forgetting. You may come tomorrow, she said, not as a king claiming old love, as a man ready to learn what he failed to remember. He breathed like the words hurt and healed at once. I will come. I may still send you away. I will come anyway, and leave if you ask. For the first time, Amara let herself look at him without waiting. The frost on the walls held steady. Public vow memory reversal record. The Frosthall records exposed Queen Mother Marinth's order to suppress Amara-linked memory triggers, publicly restored Amara Wold's 10-winter vigil, voided the bridal passage, stripped Marinth's record authority, and left Frosthall's future to Amara's choice, not Soren Vale's claim.